I want to build a machine that makes it easy and fun for me to brew a cup of tea because I cannot get enough of the stuff. I've already tried this once and let's just say it didn't go so well. Unless you drink coffee, that is, because it was really good with coffee beans.
That works perfectly. Look at that.
But I don't drink coffee, so I'm setting out to make a new version that will mean I can finally get my cup of tea. Before I start designing anything though, I want to figure out why the last one didn't work for tea and why it did work for coffee, and avoid making the same mistakes with version 2. Obviously, coffee beans and tea leaves are very different. The coffee beans are smooth, hard, and relatively large, whereas the tea leaves are stringy, grabby little things that like to get all twisted up. To figure out what's going on inside the mechanism, I'm going to turn to CAD. That is, cardboard-aided design. After a quick bit of modelling, I've replicated the original mechanism in cross-view, as well as some coffee beans and tea leaves. To kick us off, we'll have a look at what's happening with the coffee beans. My CAD package comes with a particle simulator, but it runs a little slow, so I'll speed things up for you. As the drawer is sliding out, the round shape of the coffee beans allows them to roll over each other and clear any blockages in the mechanism. Let's now put some tea leaves into the system and see what happens. The long strings of the leaves get all tangled up like Velcro and really jam up in the mechanism, which means you've got to give it a stiff yank to tear the leaves in half. Now let's see what happens when we make the back of the slide a ramp, like a lot of you suggested in the comments of the last video. As you can see, the tea now clears out pretty... Like I was saying, the tea now clears out pretty well. So it works in the CAD, let's transfer it to the real world and see how it goes.
I was giving myself a tricep workout with the file, but I just remembered that I've actually got some very sharp chisels that if you saw the last video, you'll know that I sharpened. So it's getting pretty close, I think. Just need to take this down to there. And as you can see, it's also not very even. So I'll have to do a bit of tidying up, but I think the file will be perfect for that. The chisel was so good for clearing all that up. It was way quicker than the file. So yeah, I'll just do a bit more tidying up and then we can test it out on some tea leaves.
After a bit of tidying up, both on the workpiece and my desk, it was time to reassemble and give the new and improved slide a test.
I'm not very good at this, am I? No. Definitely doesn't work. I feel like it may be even harder now. Yeah, I can't get it to go at all. Well, that idea clearly doesn't work, so we're going to have to figure something else out.
In my notebook, I drew out a few different designs, but a lot of them ended up using the same mechanics as the original design, and we know how that ended. So I scrapped them all in favor of a new design. This time, I was thinking of using a screw to transport the tea. In my mind, this should work, but it's always good to test your ideas before committing to the full build. I don't think cardboard-aided design will handle this very well, but I do know a lad that can help. And by lad, I of course mean Lego-aided design. LAD is great for making slightly more robust prototypes than CAD, but it does take a bit longer to throw something together, especially if you get distracted and end up making a spaceship. Or two. Anyway, this simple looking box is actually a combination of two features. At the top, there's a funnel representing the hopper, which will deliver the tea into the bottom, which houses a screw. Combining these, we get the LAD mock-up of the design. And it's actually so surprising how well the Lego screw is doing at moving the tea despite its small size. It gives me a lot of hope for this design. Now it's again time to translate from the model into real life. This whole design pivots on having a screw, but I have no idea how to make one. I try not to let things like that stop me, so I dug up a piece of dowel from my scrap wood pile, flipped open my Swiss Army knife, and got to work. I actually did this on a live stream for the channel members, so if you'd like to watch the replay or be part of future live streams and get access to more behind the scenes content, you can click the join button down below. And while we're here talking about the members, I just want to say a massive thank you for supporting me and the channel. I'm trying at least to make this my full-time gig, and your help goes such a long way towards making that possible, so thank you. It turned out that carving the screw took a bit longer than I anticipated, but after a few hours of incredibly satisfying carving, it was done. I think it came out looking amazing, but sadly the screw is going to be hidden away inside the housing. The housing is pretty straightforward in design, basically just a wood sandwich with screw filling, but I don't have a bit long enough or a drill with a chuck wide enough to do this the easy way, but that seems to be a bit of a theme on this channel. So it was back to the chisels to carve out the groove. And there we go, a screw sandwich. Of course, I need a way for the tea to get into the sandwich because no lunch is complete without tea. A lot of you were saying I should use the lid to hold the jar in place, which is fair. I didn't do that in the original because, as we've established, I like to punish myself for some reason, but I feel like I've taken enough punishment for the moment, so we'll use the lid this time. Although this decision came with some punishment of its own. I don't have an appropriate tool for cutting sheet metal, so I decided the best course of action would be to utterly desecrate the blade of my X-Acto. It was a bit slow, but it did get the job done. I just need a matching hole in the lid of the sandwich to let the tea in, and thankfully I've actually got the right tools for this. A bit more drilling and screwing, and we've now got a secure attachment for the hopper. I also need a little handle so I can spin the screw without having the grip strength of Adam Ondra. I've struggled with drilling straight in the past, but this is probably the highest pressure hole I've ever drilled. If I cock it up, I ruin the screw piece, which took me hours of work. Thankfully, it ended up being perfect. I also carved some little end caps, so with all those pieces I could glue the handle into place.
Jesus.
Currently, the way this thing works is there's a handle at one end and the tea comes out the other. The tea has to come out the front so it can sit in my cupboard behind the closed doors, but this configuration makes it really hard to twist the handle. After trying out a whole bunch of complicated designs in LAD, I figured the best thing to do was change the requirements. If I just pop this thing on the bench instead of in the cupboard, not only will I have even easier access to the tea, I'll also remove this whole overcomplicated headache. All I'll need to do is give this thing a little stand so I can get a mug or a tea strainer underneath it. I still had a bunch of dowel left over, so I thought they'd make the perfect legs. And this time, instead of opening up the leg holes to fit the full width of the dowels, I thought I'd do a bit more carving and slim down the ankles and thighs to fit into the smaller, easier to make holes. I was really digging the hand-carved look, so I ended up just covering the whole legs with the whittled texture. And just like that, we've got ourselves a very strange-looking ATST, which, instead of delivering tyranny, will deliver tea to the galaxy. In theory, at least. You see, up until this point, the only testing I've done of this was with the LAD model, which did work really well, but I have no idea if this version will actually work. And it doesn't work, but thankfully I've got a secret weapon up my sleeve. A different type of tea. This one's a lot finer without all the long stringy bits in it, so hopefully... No, it doesn't work either. I thought it might be the pressure of the tea in the hopper, but that doesn't check out because it still binds up with the hopper off, and it feels like if I push too hard, I'm going to snap the screw, which would probably make me cry. What I actually think is going on, and I never thought I'd say this, is that the tolerances are too tight. Let me explain. I think currently the tolerances are in a sort of inverted Goldilocks zone of shitness. The tea is getting caught up at the peaks of the screw, rubbing against the housing and causing a bunch of friction. I think either you need such tight tolerances that no tea can make its way in there, which for me is completely out of the question, or you need to have a bit of space so that the tea can work its way loose again. Thinking back to the Lego model, there was tons of space around the screw, and that worked way better than the one I've just made. A bit of elbow grease later, and the screw is flopping around in the groove. This did actually help things.
No!
But only a little bit.
Shit. Still binding up. I'll try something else.
After taking it apart again, I noticed some buildup inside the front collar, so I took it off, and wouldn't you know it, it works like a charm. Unfortunately though, I need this piece on the screw because otherwise, well, it unscrews itself. After a bit of surgery on the collar, and my finger as well apparently, I had this snazzy new look, and it bloody well works. There's only one possible way to celebrate this momentous occasion. Obviously, there are still some flaws in the design, and I'm sure it could be made a lot better, but I'm really happy with it. It probably isn't actually much easier than the old spooning out of the tin method, but it's a lot more fun, and it's a very interesting looking object, which I think is an important criteria. Thank you so much for watching. May your days be filled with good tea, and I hope to see you again soon.
Well, that's fucking hot.